everybody. My name is Fiona. I'm the founder of Move with Fiona, Luca and Talking Youth. And I am here today running a masterclass as one of the co-authors of Goodbye Busy, Hello Happy. And the masterclass revolves around essentially a chapter of my book, How to Find You and Not Completely Lose Yourself in Your Business. Now, I am a mind-body therapist, a movement, mindset, and business coach. I'm a yoga, dance, and Pilates teacher. I'm a mental health advocate and a podcast host, and I am here, no indifferent to you, sharing my story as to why I've got to the place I am today and why I had the experience and the hindsight to write the chapter I did, where I didn't have access to happiness and instead was consumed by busyness, and what my learnings have been. I hope today's workshop is resourceful and practical and supportive in helping you not just learn and grow, but take action, because that's what I'm all about as a coach and a mentor and a consultant. It's about integrating the resource that we access. So let this be supportive for you, not just to add to the barrage of information you have in your mind, but into your life to make a difference, to make change, to create impact. All right, so here we go. What you can expect. This will not be a slideshow zombie presentation, I promise. I'll be as integrative and supportive as I can to help engage with you. We will talk about how to connect inwards to create space and calmness. We'll talk about the power of self-awareness in the subconscious and conscious mind, your limiting belief patterns and how they impact your daily actions, and above all else, what is well-being and how can you access it. And I'm going to start with this beautiful quote: transformation is a connection of the head and of the heart. I am an avid believer that we are multi-dimensional, not single-dimensional. You are not defined by your thoughts. You are not defined by your emotions. It is a whole sphere of things that make up who you are, and we need to connect all of those in order to feel aligned and lead with meaning and with purpose. Okay, I'm going to start off with this very emotional photograph of myself. It gets me every time I see it, and probably the most powerful photograph I have of me in the history of my life thus far. I opened a business in 2006. It was a performing arts studio. My background is dance as a performer, choreographer, and director. And I opened it up in 2006 in partnership, brought my partner at the time out in year 5, and had no concept of how big and mad and the scope and size of this business and how it would grow in the 11 and a half years that I had it. And this is an image of me having facilitated my final class as director of my studio after 11 and a half years because I sold my business. Now in that back, right at the back of the corridor, you can see some light coming through. That was my back studio. And I just finished teaching my final class, and some parents were kind of rustling around me and distracting me, and then ushered me out through the door. And lo and behold, there were hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of meters of roses that greeted me, and essentially gave me thanks for the legacy that I was leaving behind. And I walked the entire path, and there were students that were present, students that were past that had come back to honor me, and it was incredible. I was about 23 weeks pregnant at the time with my second child, and my face is an example of me, of my internal world, essentially, of how I felt on the inside. Those roses were supposed to represent, you know, honor and gratitude and joy and memory and legacy. And for me in that moment, they were suffocating. They represented closing in and constriction and suffocation and an inability to connect inside, consumed by the outside. And that's how I finished up my business. I was potentially at burnout stage, which is what I guess the medical practitioners identified. But what was really not working for me was the fact that my inner world and my outer world were not aligned. On the outside, my business was thriving. It was successful. They were all telling me I was mad to sell it. It had got to a very reputable, stable, financially supportive state. But I was unhappy. There was no joy. There was nothing left of me. I was completely consumed and wrapped up in the identity of my business, and I had lost who I was. And I couldn't live like that any longer. as a mother, as a wife at the time, as a friend, as a human being in society. It just didn't feel good. And so my only option, I thought at the time, was to sell my business. And boy, oh boy, did I never anticipate what followed now 5 years later. Stay with me and you'll learn. This quote is beautiful and it's so relevant and true to me, and I hope you can resonate. Success is one thing, but what's really impressive is what you've accomplished within you. Now, I'm sure there's many business owners behind this screen tuning into this workshop or masterclass, hoping to become more resourced and all that sort of stuff. And the resource that I'm going to give you is resource that's going to support your internal well-being, and which inevitably is going to support the well-being of your business. Okay, so I have some tips to offer you today that have supported me in adopting all of these wonderful things that are now allowing me to lead a life that does feel aligned, that is aligned with my highest values, and that does allow me to lead from integrity. And number one is creating space. As you saw, those roses were closing in on me. After 11 and a half years, I had no space internally or externally. I was completely consumed by the running of my business. And when you don't have space, you don't have the capacity to hear the whispers inside, to hear the resource that your body's trying to share with you through pain, through dis-ease, through irritation, inflammation. You don't hear because you have no space. So I ask these questions to you to reflect on whether you yourself have space in your world. Are you responding or reacting to life? Hysteria is historical, they say. Reactivity is old. It's baggage that we've kept and swept up over years and years of life so far. Responding is being in the present moment. And that's hard to do because when we are in a situation that creates a big bodily response, we tend to react. Could you become more considered in your responses? Are you latching onto old stuff rather to dictate how you respond to your world? Or are you seeing it with a fresh new pair of eyes? What's in the way of you and your experience stifling you from having the experience that you desire? I invite you to turn to that place inside of you that is fight, the reaction, the anger, the sadness, the big emotions and feelings, and understand what they are trying to tell you. How can we avoid deflecting them by adding more to our schedule or adopting that new idea or filling our lives more? Instead of all of those deflective tools that we're so good at, how can we instead stop and listen to the fight inside of us and ask what it is trying to tell us? Have you created any space for magic to arise? What does your weekly schedule look like? Do you scroll up on your weekly diary on a Monday morning and already have anxiety over the fact that there's no white space in there for you to have the capacity to reflect, to introspect, to self-reflect, to contemplate and consider how things could be different or altered or change in order for you to lead from a place that feels good rather than be swept up by busy? And change, I truly believe, stems from curiosity. Now, I didn't have the capacity to be curious when I was consumed by that business. Instead, I spent all of my time and energy being bigger, better, growing more, scaling more. And don't get me wrong, I'm an advocate for all of those things in business. I love that part of business. We should be doing that in business, but not to the detriment of our well-being, not misaligned from the core value and essence of who we are. Calmness of the mind is one of the most beautiful jewels of wisdom. It is a long and patient practice of self-control. And I'll tell you why. How can we create space in our world, you ask? Mindfulness. Listen to this incredible quote or definition of mindfulness. It involves us being intently aware of what you are sensing and feeling in the moment without interpretation or judgment. being intently aware of what you are sensing and feeling in the moment without interpretation or judgment. How powerful is that? A. B. How hard is that? We interpret and judge every moment. We do as a conditioned society. You are probably doing it. In fact, you are doing it right now with me in front of you, accessing this resource. You're interpreting it based on beliefs, limiting belief patterns, habitual thoughts, values. You're judging it based on what you like and what you don't like. How can you instead be mindful in a moment, sans all of that interpretation and judgment, and just be there, indulging and experiencing it for what it is? That's spaciousness. That is spaciousness. Most of the time we spent leading mindlessly. Creating space invites you to stop, pause, and listen. Because when you do, you realize that you have more inner wisdom inside of you that you could ever imagine. I have a perfect example of this literally this morning. There is something in my life at the moment where I need to make a decision, yes or no. And I feel torn. There's pros and there's cons. There's things that are contradicting my values, but there's things that are aligned with my values. And I'm not quite sure which way I'm going to turn. So before I went to bed last night, I opened the question out. I surrendered. I let go of the grip of the outcome. And instead, I asked for some advice. Can I invite some clarity around this experience or this situation in my life? Can you give me some signs or signals? Can you give me some space to access my inner wisdom so that I can then make an informed decision that I know is going to be aligned with integrity and my values? I took myself off for a nice big run this morning for a big day of presentations and clients, and 5 kilometers in, hit me. I got the response I needed. It was almost like if I was to make a sound effect, it would be like this. It was almost like all the noise dissipated, and what I was left was this kind of clarity, this answer that I've been seeking, the one that felt right. And I didn't have to reach out to multiple friends or business, peers or my mum for the response. Instead, I trusted that I had the wisdom inside of me to give me the response that I needed to help me project forward in line with how I want to do life and who I want to be in my life. Can you navigate the components of your life that fill your cup and those that empty it? I literally just jumped off a call with one of the youth that I mentor and coach, and I invited her to do this exact exercise. What lights you up? What energizes you? And what de-energizes you? And for those of you that are a part of the corporate sector or your own businesses that have done any strength profiling, you'll realize that you've worked out what are your inherited or your adopted strengths that kind of de-energize you, that you have to do because you're good at, and what are the ones that you've learnt, that you've brought into your life so that they energize you, because it feels good when you do them. Navigate those components. Realize how much space is being taken up doing stuff that doesn't feel good, that doesn't energize you. How can you outsource that stuff? How can you spend less time doing that and instead more time doing the stuff that lights you up? I think I didn't know that. And if I knew that, I forgot that whilst I was running my business. And so by the end of it, the joy of dance, which is the studio that I opened, the purpose and the why behind opening that business, the mission to inspire and empower so many young people and adults to access movement in a healing, communicative, supportive way, I didn't have access to that anymore. I was bogged down by the bookwork and the budgets and the marketing and the forward thinking. And I didn't have the space or the resource or the ability or the tool to genuinely navigate the components of my business that filled me up and do more of that rather than the stuff that took from me. And how often are you conscious of your breath? Wow, we breathe up to 23,000 times a day, 23 inhales and 23 exhales. How conscious of them are you? Do you even consider one and do that mindfully? And if you don't, let me help you. I'm going to now invite us all to breathe together. So with your permission, let's do it. Sit back in your seat, uncross your legs. I'm going to do it with you. Settle down. Maybe close down your eyes if it feels okay. And let's breathe together. I want you to feel your sit bones on the seat underneath you. I want you to lean your spine back in your chair and feel genuinely held and supported by your chair so that you can let go a little. Can you soften your jaw, space between your eyebrows? Relax the muscles around your neck and shoulders. Keep that relaxation all the way down past your elbows, your wrists, and your fingertips. Feel both of your feet firmly grounded into the floor underneath you. Just give yourself permission just to put all of your energy into this exact moment. And now attune to your breath. Notice what it feels like to inhale and exhale. Together, let's do 4 rounds of mindful breathing. And I want you to visualize the breath starting from your belly, traveling all the way up past your diaphragm, ribs, chest, throat, face, crown of your head. And visualize the breath descending back down to your belly button. So when you're ready, through your nose, big breath in from your belly, diaphragm, ribs, chest, throat, crown of your head. And big breath out all the way back down to where it began. And through the nose, another big breath in. And as you breathe out, feel the breath travel back down, grounding you a little more further into your seat. Big inhale. Slow, steady exhale. Final inhale. And grounding exhale. And gently blink open your eyes. And before you jump into the mind, just notice the space you've created. Notice the energy in your body. Is there a shift? Do you feel a little more placid or calm? 4 to 5 conscious breaths has the power to regulate our nervous system. It gives us an opportunity to calm our body, which inevitably allows us to access our prefrontal cortex, which is the home of all of the crazy executive functions that support us in doing life, problem solving, reasoning, innovation, creativity, coping mechanisms. Purely by breathing, we create space internally and externally. So can you set an alarm on your phone and checkpoint 3 times a day to take 4 mindful breaths and notice the difference? Notice the power that breathing has on your life when you do it mindfully and consciously. Okay, tip number 2, build your self-awareness. When I was studying mind-body therapy, one of the most things that resonated with me right at the beginning of the course was a lecturer that said, well-being is self-awareness. Without self-awareness, you cannot access well-being, because when you are aware, you are in choice. And when you are in choice, you choose things that serve you. That is well-being. I ask you, when was the last time you did a revision of your values? Now, I'm sure many of you have done this with business mentors or coaches or in leadership programs, but I like to dig a bit deeper and poke the bear a bit further with your values. And I ask you to question if those values are yours. Did you adopt them from your caregivers or your family environment or your school system? Are they yours? And if they are, how often do you lead by them rather than merely identify with them? Now, post-selling my business and doing a lot of inner work delving into my yoga practice and becoming qualified in that department and being a mindfulness coach and doing all this wonderful work, both through therapy and through self-reflection and inner healing, I worked out that my highest value is integrity. Now, I'll tell you what, when I was walking down that path of roses, I wasn't in integrity. My outer world was not congruent to my inner world. I was bright and sparkly and energized on the outside. I was tired, overwhelmed, and sad, and not coping on the inside. And that felt horrible. It felt horrible to project something to the outside world that wasn't congruent with my inside world. And that's because my highest value is integrity, and I was not leading from it. I was lying to myself, and I was lying to everybody around me. And I promised myself never, ever to put myself in that situation again. What is meaningful to you? What is meaningful to you? Mike Segal, an incredible researcher in the positive psych space and also a diploma student of positive psych and well-being, he says that without meaning and purpose, it is almost impossible to access positive emotion in our body, to access a positive version of life. What is meaningful to you? And is this adopted in your businesses, in your family home, in the community in which you immerse yourself every single day? What do you know of yourself to be true? My clients often find this question really challenging when I ask it. What do you genuinely, inherently know is yours and is true about you? How will you show up every single time? Because that's who you are. Connect to that. Be that person, because that's true to you. And is the picture you display to the outside world congruent with the version of yourself inside? As I already shared, mine wasn't, and it felt horrible, and it impacted my mental and my emotional well-being. On purpose is finding, sharing, and embodying your own life's blueprint, and that will change all of the time. As my business grew for 11 and a half years, so did I. And what I found was I had grown separate from my business, not with it. And there was a misalignment that I could not pretend didn't exist. The Fiona I am today is different to the Fiona I was yesterday, and you're no different. And are you leading from that place of growth and expansion, or are you still pretending to be the person you were the other day? Our subconscious and conscious mind and the connection to our limiting beliefs. I spent a lot of time working with my clients around their limiting beliefs and their belief patterns that in fact impact their life and stifle their life and stop them from accessing what they desire. As a society, we are well conditioned to attach to outcomes, to concepts, to people, and to trends. We are also well conditioned to suck it up and get on with it. Yet the pull of the future, according to Arthur Koestler, is as real as the pressure of the past. What is not reiterated, however, is how programmed we are for nearly 95% of our day to create a lifestyle that is aligned with our inherited belief systems and patterns we learnt and adopted as young people based on our experience and learnings from our primary caregivers and our environments. Okay, what does that all mean? Take a screenshot of this and read it over and over and see where it lands. That means that by age 7, up to 95% of our beliefs, of what we see to be right, of our values, is already adopted. And this is based on our experience as little people, from our caregivers, our family environments, what we've seen at daycare or kinder or early years at school. And it also is adopted based on how our nervous system has responded to moments of stress. So we're so incredible, our bodies are so incredibly clever. Our nervous system is so incredibly clever that it adopts a stress response way back when we're teeny tiny little bubbers, in moments where we're feeling unloved, unheard, unseen, unsafe, unsupported. For some of you, it might be flight, fright, freeze, fawn. These are the ways in which our brain responds when we're under stress. So do you punch on and kick off and become really reactive? Are you a fighter? Are you a fawner? Yes, sir, no, sir. People pleaser. Does that make you feel safe and like you're accepted in society, in your family environment? Are you a flight? Do you get out of there? Do you flee? Do you pretend it didn't happen? Or are you a freeze? Do you go numb? Do you lose your voice? You can't express yourself. Yeah. And this is how we operate and lead life. And we take all of this with us through adulthood, and for most of us into our businesses, and then wonder why things aren't working or why we're at burnout. Nor are we ever really encouraged to feel our way through life. Think first, act later, they say. As I said, we're mind, we're body, and we're spirit. Sometimes we forget that below our neck is this incredible tool, this resource that gives us messages and content every single day. We just don't listen to it because we're too busy thinking and intellectualizing our day. We are what we think about all day long. What is it that you think about that stifles you from accessing the life that you desire? What expectations do you put on yourself? What pressure do you put on yourself? Do you put on other people or other things or other environments? Here is a little diagram to support what I just shared with you. This is credit to Leyland Val Vanderwall. The stick person. Okay, work with me here. This is a tricky one. Take a screenshot of this as well and let this simmer over the next few days. Energy goes in, so that's information, resource, like this, what I'm sharing with you. We have a very small window, which is our subconscious mind, our intellectual mind, that is open, that is curious, that is present. Yeah. So the energy goes in and we let it land for a few moments, and it lands with a newness to it. Yeah. From there, it seeps down into our subconscious mind, which is where our emotional mind is. And our subconscious mind is the home of 95% of our already inherited belief systems. Okay. And amongst those belief systems are wonderful things, but there's also detrimental things or sabotaging things. So what we do is that those belief systems, that subconscious mind, files that energy, that resource, that information we've onboarded into all the right pigeonholes and almost intellectualizes it and categorizes it and puts it in its compartments, so that then we believe that information to be what the subconscious dictates that it is. Does that make sense? Remember, the subconscious is the old mind. It's the feeling mind. It attaches to all the stuff we've experienced so far. So we're essentially manipulating that new energy, that new resource, to fit in with what we already believe in. From there, that then determines what goes through our body and our actions, which then obviously determines our results. So we manipulate information every single day based on our inherited belief systems. And amongst those inherited belief systems are many, many, many limiting beliefs about ourselves and about the world we live in. So often when we receive resource, we don't give it an opportunity to serve its purpose because we've already construed it and manipulated it to serve us, to validate what we already believe in. Isn't that crazy? There's no mindfulness in that. That's mindlessness. That's just getting new stuff and sticking it to old stuff, as opposed to getting new stuff, digesting it or ingesting it in a new way, in a curious way, and then applying the newness of it to your life to see if it can change and alter anything. And that's what we do as coaches and mentors. We support you in identifying those limiting belief systems so that when you do attain new resource or have a new experience or meet a hot new man or have the seventh child, that you do it differently in a way that serves you and what you want here and now, not what's been in the past. So powerful. And this, my friend, is paradigms. And what are paradigms? They are a multitude of habits, an idea that is fixed in a person's subconscious mind that causes them to do something without any conscious thought. It's a limiting belief. So when this new energy, this new resource comes in, often our paradigms latch onto it, latch onto it and fixate it in our mind to serve what we already know, rather than see it for what it is. And so this leads me to the question, is there a gap between the image you project to the outside world and the one on the inside world? And that is called our knowing doing gap. So this is a self-reflection exercise. So I'm not going to spend 2 minutes now just due to time constraints, but I'd love you to take a photo of this and do this exercise post this masterclass or in your own time, because it is incredibly powerful. Can you take 2 minutes to recognize an obvious knowing and doing gap in your business? What do you know and what do you do? What do you know about time management? What do you know about creating space in your weekly schedule? What do you know about boundaries around when you do respond to a client or not respond to a client? What do you know about money and cash flow? And then what do you do? And is there a gap? Identify with that and then ask these questions in regards to that. What do you know that you feel unable to implement or act on? What is stopping you? That's a hard question. Be humble in that response. How is this impacting your life? And is it a reaction or a direct response to your situation? From a place of lack and scarcity, we never find the joy in the experience, as we are completely reliant on the outcome to provide us with this. So powerful. So we attach to our outcomes. We attach to what's going to happen at the end. But if we lead from lack and scarcity, we're not joyful in the experience. We don't find happy because we're relying on the outcome to provide us with this. My chapter in this book talks about how you can access your version of happy without relying on these outcomes, without attaching to the end result. My final tip is goodbye busy, hello you. If this presentation can ignite anything in you, let it be curiosity and bravery. The curiosity to explore all of the beautiful pillars of yourself and see with clarity the roses, but also the stems. And the bravery to start asking those tough questions that ignite us to access the truth of who we are. My chapter is all about supporting you in accessing the truth of who you are. My work as a coach, this presentation is all about supporting you in accessing the truth of who you are, because that's all we have. We have beautiful businesses and gorgeous children and, partners or ex-husbands in my case. We have all of this stuff, but it's about who we are on the inside and how we lead from that place. And if you're finding that you're approaching burnout or you're too busy or you can't access happy, chances are there's not enough curiosity and bravery in your world right now. And I want to be the person that invites you and inspires you to change that. Because it is from here that you'll steer away from busy and commence reclaiming your sense of self, which inadvertently will support you in being well, accessing well-being. How do you choose to feel in your business? Not what the outcome is, not the bottom line or the bank account figure, but how you feel in your business. Because do you know what? I had all of those things. I had incredible staff. I had the reputation. I had the money. I had the thriving business, but I felt shit. The feeling, the joy, the internal contentment and serenity and peace, it wasn't there. Why? A barrage of things. Why? I was leading from a perfectionist mindset. I was trying to find lack of self-worth. I wasn't happy in my marriage, so I was busier in my business to deflect from what I was feeling in my family life. Yeah, I was torn between being the perfect mother and the perfect director and founder of a business. There was so much going on. And I tell you what, for the past 5 years, I have deep dived right into that. And I have accessed so many answers that have been humbling, answers that have been incredible, and answers that have been hard and painful and have required, grief and emotional expression as opposed to suppression. But all of that has got me to the place now where I feel well. I access well-being because I'm in alignment with who I am on the inside. And that's a really empowering space to be in. So my friends, that is my masterclass for today. perhaps not the resource you were anticipating, but most certainly a resource that's been powerful for me, that I feel very called to share with everybody that I have the privilege of facilitating or supporting in my time in my career. So if you'd love to learn more, if you'd love me to help guide you to access more of the truth of who you are and shine the mirror back up at you, and build the foundation, rebuild the foundation of who you are and lead from that place, then you can find me on my website, on Instagram or Facebook at Move with Fiona Luca, or send me through a beautiful email, fiona@movewithfiona.com.au, and I'd love to support. I invite you and close with this. Give yourself permission to be in all of the places you are right now, because it is enough. It is absolutely enough. And I remind myself of this every day, because those two beautiful little people in that photo are my girls. And I know that when they look at me and they believe I'm enough. And it just took me being able to look back in the mirror and acknowledging that for myself that genuinely changed my life. I wish you all well. Enjoy the book, and hopefully our paths cross again someday. Take care.